1 recap. Was that amazing or what? Give it up for Season 1 of Star Wars The Bad Batch. Seven years ago, in this very convention center, we were fortunate enough to see the animatic versions of episodes which at the time we didn't think we would ever see completed. But we got to have amazing adventures over the last couple of years between Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 and of course Season 1 of Star Wars The Bad Batch. We got to run. We have some amazing panelists out here. Before we can bring them out, I want to just share a couple things. I have been working hard to convince them to show us some not just talk about Season 1, but maybe show us a couple of new things if we can. But just some little housekeeping. If we get to see anything new, this is for our eyes only here in this room. So we ask that there are no phones out in case they give us a little sneak peek of something. I am going to ask, I promise you. But I don't want to bring out the panelists for The Bad Batch. Someone else here just made a surprise appearance. He stopped by. He wants to introduce his crew that he's been working with for about 17, 18 years. Dave Filoni, ladies and gentlemen.
I just wanted to come out here on behalf of my friends who's about to come on the stage. Just to let you know that something at Lucasfilm is very important to all of us is legacy. Legacy has been with us. When you walk the halls, you see the Dennis Mirrors, John Knowles, you see the Ben Burts, you see the history of Star Wars and our company. It's very important that, like the Jedi say, you have to pass on what you've learned. So when I knew I'd be transitioning to live action, that would take me away from a lot of my duties in animation, I had to find people that we all thought could hold up that legacy. And I'm so proud of this group. So you all know, I still talk to them all the time. I love these guys, they're supremely talented, and what they've made with Bad Batch is just absolutely incredible. So let me introduce Brad Rowell, Jennifer Corbett, Matt Michnovetz, Steve Bradley Baker, and Michelle.
Dave Filoni, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, guys, that's great. I'll see you later.
Dave Filoni, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to Star Wars Celebration. There was so much cheering, I want to give you an opportunity to just go down the road and introduce yourselves. Brad, let's start with you.
I'm Brad. Welcome, Bad Batchers.
I'm Corbett, head writer.
Matt Michnovetz, story editor.
Dave Bradley Baker, trooper.
And hi, I'm Michelle and Mika.
Welcome. Welcome. I wanted to start just talking a little bit. Matt, you've been working on The Bad Batch since back during the Clone Wars, since those animatics that I mentioned. You were working with George Lucas, you were working with Dave. What was it like back then, working on The Bad Batch and creating these characters?
It was amazing. It was beyond anything you can dream of, right? Working in a room with George Lucas and Dave Filoni and the talented writers we had. I mean, that was over like 10 years ago. We were like right around, I think, like towards the end of writing the Clone Wars series, and George had this idea to do these defective clones that were a little different than everyone else. And
We're not defective, we're enhanced.
amazing group of enhanced clones with specialized skills.
Dee, please don't stop doing that for the entire hour, because I am so here for it.
I just want to get it right from the back.
Well, so that it came into Clone Wars Season 7. What was the inspiration behind bringing it into Season 7? Was it perhaps Star Wars Celebration? Because I remember being in the room and the response was huge. to these characters.
Yeah, we did that animatic show, and yeah, we crushed it on that one. Everyone loved it. It seemed to like be really popular.
Yeah. So the decision was to bring it out, and then how did the decision come about to go to series with the Bad Batch? I mean, that was a natural evolution from there.
Yeah, so because the Bad Batch arc was so popular and there was kind of a want for more clone stories, Dave Filoni was considering, do these guys have what it takes to lead their own show? And we started just talking about what that would look like post Order 66. And then the conversation led to what if they came into contact with this young clone and what being guardians for this young clone would mean. That's kind of how it all kicked off.
So you always knew it was going to start post Order 66 then for the series?
Pretty early on, because talk about like a pivotal moment in Star Wars. And we wanted to show more about what happens to the clones post Order 66 and seeing it through the eyes of the Bad Batch who don't ever really do things according to plan, like most of the regs do, but yeah, how they navigate the galactic place and that it is right now, considering they're not soldiers anymore, and what that looks like when their clones have been born and bred to be nothing but that.
It's kind of a bit of an identity crisis that they're having post Order 66. It's so fascinating. What's it like? I mean, what was it like for you as writers to break the story of season 1? Because there's, I mean, so much happened in those episodes. You start with Order 66, which is huge. And by the way, wasn't that incredible? The Order 66. I was just amazed by it. What was it like, basically starting from there and plotting a path for these enhanced clones?
Yeah,
Through 16 episodes.
really enhanced.
Some great moments from the writing that come to mind, like breaking story.
Well, I mean, speaking for that first episode in particular, because, you know, when you go back and watch it, you show once Order 66 happens and Hunter is trying to help Caleb Doom, who, you know, makes a nice little and he's questioning what this order is, and you know, something's wrong with it. So he tries to help Caleb out. It doesn't really work out for him, and then throughout the episode, you see him meet Omega and realize that something else is going on there on Kamino with her, and we end the episode with the Batch deciding to go back to Kamino to get her, and you know, so we're trying to bookend it with him helping a kid, trying to help a kid, and then succeeding in helping.
Their reactions are a huge part of this show. You know, reacting to what they see is just kind of crazy. One of the things that I think struck all of us was sort of the evolution of the Empire that you got to see in Bad Batch. What was it like just mapping that out? I mean, that's a long evolution, obviously, but we saw a lot go down in season 1. How did you map that out? What was that like?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. We love the Empire. I mean, come on, it's so good. Come on, right?
Final verse.
I mean, we love the Empire. We do. But the thing that's really interesting is that even though this is proverbial dark times, the Empire needs time to build. So with all of this Republic equipment and armor, it was really cool to design, what would that look like if we just made it all matte gray, took all the light out of the color. And when you see these legions of clone troopers that are all not colorful anymore, it has a very insidious, different look. And it gave us time to kind of ramp into the Empire a little bit.
How did the whole idea of the conscripted soldiers coming in and how to introduce that? Do you remember that moment when you were kind of writing that episode? Was that the 3rd episode, I believe? How did that kind of evolve? Like, where do we start the Stormtrooper program? Do you remember?
Yeah, there's like a pilot program, you're saying, that Crosshair started, the Elite Squad. Yeah, Rampart, that's correct, yeah.
Rampart,
That
yeah.
Crosshair was leading. It was crazy trying to figure all that out. We had to really map out sort of like what that evolution would look like and then sort of backwards engineer it.
Yeah, because the Empire, you know, we wanted to show the slow phasing out of the clones, because it's not like they're going to be like, great, we're an Empire now, let's get rid of everybody, because the clones still serve a purpose for them. But we just wanted to continue showing the transition of, all right, we have these clones, we're going to start phasing them out, let's now have, you know, conscription soldiers that then turn into stormtroopers.
Is that how Rampart came about? Was through that whole thing? Is that how you... Tell us about the creation of Rampart. Rampart's an incredible villain, isn't he?
Rampart?
Well, yeah, no, Rampart was somebody that we wanted to do, not your standard Imperial. We wanted to really show somebody who was ambitious and creative go-getter with the ideas that the Empire needed at the time. And yeah, he's we got a great character out of him.
And big shout out to Noshir Dalal. Love you, Noshir.
Noshir, the voice actor, yeah. It's amazing, yeah. Fantastic. I mean, I could just sit here and ask you questions about story forever. In fact, I might. But what I want to ask you about is I want to talk about our friend Crosshair here. He's such a compelling character. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Does he have the chip? Does he not have the chip? When did that all happen? I guess the question I have for you is, can Crosshair be redeemed after season 1?
Yes. Can I be redeemed? I often wrestle with this question myself.
Well, maybe. I feel like I'm at some sort of like we just summoned Crosshair over here. So is that a flawed
You
question?
don't want to summon Crosshair.
Well, what happens if I summon Tech? Would he think Crosshair could be redeemed?
Tech is ever ready. I am at hand to assist in any way that I can.
Well, Dean, we're here. I gotta go around the horn. So, what about Hunter? Does Hunter think his brother can be redeemed?
I'm over here. I don't have much to say though. I watch, I'm aware, and I consider, and then I act.
Echo, do you have regrets joining the Marauders?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just fixing the board over here.
I wish I had a Gungi sound effect to play right about now. But no, I forgot to come back to you guys about that. But I really do want to answer this question, not let you off the hook. Crosshair, is that a difficult balancing act in terms of how villainous can he be redeemed? Is there anything you can tell us about that?
I mean, does he want to be redeemed right now? It's an interesting question. He's a very interesting guy. We talk about him a lot. That's for sure.
So you can't say anything good. Let me ask you this. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Is it fair? I'm getting crickets as answers. Is it fair? Thank you, Dee. Is it fair to say that we haven't heard the last or seen the last from Crosshair?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay, I'm going to circle back to this. Okay, let me ask you this. I want to go down the road here and just ask favorite moment from season 1 for you guys, working on it, watching it, whatever it is. Why don't we start from here? We'll go all the way down and finish with Michelle.
Right on. There's so many great moments. I was thinking about this. One thing that stood out to me a lot is a small thing that might not be the biggest cataclysmic thing that happened in the show, but there's a moment, speaking of Echo, and Dee, the way you read Echo's line, it's in episode 103, when the Marauder is breaking up and Echo walks by, and I think we have Wrecker talking about all the things that are bad that are happening, how everybody's going on, Hunter's talking about it, and Echo says, add it to the list. And I gotta tell you, that is the most commonly used quote when we talk about the show. It's something, it's hard. Making these shows is very hard, I'll tell you that.
Life imitating art, now you guys say it during production.
Exactly.
We got to fix this. Add it to the list.
At least every episode.
Oh, that's great. What about you? Jennifer?
Ooh, well, this brings me back to when Brad was asked what his favorite moment of season 1 was before, and he said the last 3 episodes. And I'm like, that's cheating. You can't say the last 3 episodes. I think for me, I really enjoyed getting to pair Omega with Hera.
Omega and Hera.
it's so rare for Omega to be able to hang out with kids, and you saw that when Cut McQuain and his kids made an appearance, but otherwise she's surrounded by, you know, her space dads, and that's really it. So Omega and Hera hanging out, and like Omega being so proud of the Marauder, and Hera like being, you know, not jealous, but being like, oh, I wish I could, you know, live on a starship, that's my dream. It was just, I love seeing that come to life.
Space Dads is like a future t-shirt, I think. That's amazing. Matt, what about you?
There's so many great things, obviously. I mean, I love the action. I love when the Batch come up with some kind of crazy plan. I don't know how we come up with any of these, but it's classic Batch moves, basically, getting out of them. But there's one moment early on in season 1, I think it's episode 2, that I think sums up the show. And it's just a beautiful little moment, the way you guys designed it. And it's when Omega gets off the ship and sees, like, dirt, basically, for the first time. And it's great because it's a little moment I think we all have, like, you know, an uncomfortable moment where it's like you're leaving your comfort zone and you're experiencing something new for the first time. And that's a journey that, yeah, is like indicative of the Batch's journey, basically, which is we like to take these guys out of their comfort zone and put them into, you know, these big, you know, crazy soldiers and put them into situations that they are unfamiliar with. And I think that's really where the show lives.
By the way, I love this shot. This is, I think we talked about this, Brad. This looks like it's an homage to The Searchers.
100%.
Yes, the John Ford movie. It looks just amazing. There's so much. Sorry to derail about this, but the cinematography, the work that the crew has done over these last 18 years, it is unbelievably gorgeous. I think some of them are here.
Oh yeah.
I think I saw Joel, a couple other crew members. If you're here, stand up. Where are you?
You guys are.
Where are they? Where are they? There they are. Amazing. You're a Bad Batch crew member. Stand up. Take a bow. Amazing. There they are.
I gotta say, our team is the best, and I don't say that lightly. I've worked in this business for a long time, and it's the best team I've ever worked with. And everybody puts their heart and soul into everything. That's why it's so good.
Yeah. You can really feel that there's a lot of passion on screen. Speaking of passion, Dee and Michelle, you bring that to every session you do. Before I want to ask you about recording and what that's like. Before I do though, just reacting to the finished show, because you see it so early on. You know, you're at the script phase, you haven't seen any visuals, but you bring all this imagination, all of this life that then goes off to be animated. When you finally saw it, what were some of your favorite moments of season 1?
Yeah, it is really wild because we get the story on paper form, and you're right, we have to like make this leap with the help of Brad, this imaginative leap as we're performing and recording, and then it can be a really long time until, I mean, you really, I watch the finished product like the rest of you, like for the first time because it's been a while, so lots and lots of surprises to me. I really love Omega's experience with all of the wild, crazy animals that she comes in contact with on her adventures, and how she's like not really fazed by them, like quite often finds an angle to like, you know, talk to them or empathize with them while everyone else is freaking out. And obviously the Wrecker relationship is so much fun. He's like the fun big brother who like, you know, shares my man's helmet.
The man's helmet.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
But honestly, as a performer and, you know, coming from live action, I just feel so lucky because while there are all these lovely light moments, Omega also gets to participate in some pretty emotional storylines. And so I think one of the standouts for me is when she is talking to Crosshair before, you know, like when she knows what's about to happen, and she's like, it's not your fault. I just remember recording that, and yeah, it was just, I love those big emotional moments, but specifically how forgiving Omega is with both Crosshair and then a little later with Wrecker, knowing what's about to happen and still finding that love and forgiveness. Yeah.
Dee, what about you?
2 moments leap to mind out of so many. I really love when Wrecker prepared a little room for her on the ship that's hers. And it's such a touching, beautiful gesture and moment that really plants the flag of what they have to learn and what they're going to try to make work as the universe shifts from a republic to tyranny. My other favorite scene is the cafeteria scene, where Omega just plops herself down on the table and just sees herself as one of them so sweetly and innocently. And then the food fight that commences from that is, that's a lot of fun. I love that moment too.
That's amazing. What was it like going through the recording process, knowing that there are 2 of you that represent 6 of you? You know, I mean, I know, Dee, you're used to it after amazing work that you did on the Clone Wars. All, you know, you're also playing Rex. Hauser. That's a big Hauser fan right there. What are those recording sessions like for you guys? What was it? What's it like just kind of going back and forth? And did the emotion or the heart that you just described in the room, did that surprise you? What's it like bringing that in the booth for you guys on a show like this?
Well, obviously Dee does the heavy lifting. I mean, you know, I'll just sit back for a good chunk while he plays all those characters. But as you can probably tell, Mr. D, Bradley Baker, is an amazing artist, but also a lot of fun to be around. So yes, we do like have the gut punch moments where we have to get a little serious, but those are very often interspersed with a lot of fun ad-libs and a lot of levity and laughs.
Yeah, we play through it like a regular scene, which I think you're going to see pretty soon here. And it's just running through a scene like there's a room full of performers, but there's just 2 of us.
Yeah, you guys want to see him read a little bit? We brought scripts, or we brought a script. Brad, you want to set this up?
Yes, we have a small excerpt here from episode 108 in season 1 that we wanted to do a little run through because it was one of my first questions to you, Dee. How do you want to do this? We're going to do Wrecker first, and then we're going to do Hunter first. That makes sense to me. And you're like, no wait, Brad, let's do it.
You just do it all at once, in one take.
Yeah, we just go right through it.
Well, I want to see that. Do you guys want to see
All right.
that?
Yeah.
I want to see that. You guys, just to set the scene, Brad, this is when they're on Braca.
This is on Braca.
This is on the planet Braca. Okay.
So it's important to note that as we're performing through a scene, Brad's going to read through the stage direction, but that's a really important part for us as a voice actor to be aware of so that we can add action and pause and adjust the presence of our voice so that it fits the specific story that Brad and Jen and Matt have already kind of laid out for us here. So this adds the context to what we're doing.
Okay, this is Bad Batch, episode 107, scene whatever, take 1. We're rolling.
Interior ion engine Jedi cruiser Braca. The batch cautiously scaled the steep and massive ion cylinder of the scrap Jedi cruiser.
I didn't think you meant we'd be escaping through the engine.
I could not have been clearer.
Wow, I've never been inside an ion engine before.
Everywhere there's a hat,
These chambers are quite the engineering marvel. This blast primer coating is capable of withstanding...
No one cares! Keep moving!
They reach and gather at the exterior ring of the engine atop the cruiser. Suddenly, a blast strikes the edge of the ring from outside. Tech loses his footing.
Oh, whoa!
Hunter grabs a hold of Tech, stopping him from falling, but just barely. The team crouches down in the ring and peers outside to see Crosshair, standing on the hull of a scrap ship directly next to and below the cruiser's engines.
Try again, Hunter. I told you before, you're surrounded.
Back in the engine cone, the batch keeps low in the curved lip.
Double back.
They begin to descend the cylinder when they hear the engine begin to start up. Wom, 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 wom.
What is that?
Sounds like the engine's coming online, but that's not possible, right?
Technically, it is. I restored the ship's main power core when I accessed the central system, which means the engines can be activated.
Crosshair wouldn't do that, would he?
Echo feels the metal as a low hum begins to reverberate. Wom, wom, wom. They look down as the core begins to glow brighter and brighter.
How much time do we have?
I estimate less than 2 minutes.
On the interior bridge of the Jedi cruiser, ES-4, lead squad number 4, programs the sequence at the control panel. Back in the engine, the back situation grows desperate as the engine rumbles around them.
What do we do?
What about Plan 7? Plan 7 has nothing to do with this situation whatsoever. Well, what? You think of something then? We can use the explosives from the armory to disable the engine, right?
It won't cause a large enough reaction to affect the thermal chamber.
Tech motions around the ring as they're huddled in.
But if we place a series of charges around this cone, we may be able to break away from the cylinder while destabilizing the core.
Breakaway. You mean fall, like all the way down?
It's that we'll be incinerated. Everyone, Tech and Explosive, Tech, Omega, on top with me.
Wrecker grabs a container of explosives. They each grab one and begin lining the ring as the engine tunnel grows brighter and brighter. Outside, Crosshair sees no movement. He keeps his rifle aimed at the cone.
Sir, the engines are ready.
Engage.
Insane.
The Bad Batch live at Star Wars Celebration.
Part of what makes that so fun and so easy is the great writing that we have on this show. That is the foundation that makes this whole ship fly. And without that, we don't have the clarity of purpose or of character to make this something that touches you, that affects you like it so surely does. So hats off to the writing on this show. And then all the rest of the army of collaborators that come together for every single frame of this to make this the cinematic marvel that it is, that exceeds all expectations, that hardly belongs on a television screen. It belongs on a movie theater. It is so big and beautiful and full. So hats off to everybody for it.
Yes, sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, man. I just have to shout out my dear friend Athena Portillo, who has set up this. Athena Portillo.
Athena! Where is she? Where is Athena?
Athena, where are you at?
Athena! Our producer, our fearless producer.
We love you so much, Athena. And all of this work could only be done if the pipeline was set up so tight, because it's a lot of work. All the scripts, all the designs, all the animation, all the lighting, the way that we shoot these, all of the work we do in the booth. It's such an amazing team, but it wouldn't be possible without this amazing schedule that Athena has been set up. Thanks so much, Athena.
Thanks, Athena.
I gotta say, it's also really cool to note that this is George Lucas's legacy. The Bad Batch, I mean, his fingerprints were directly on the origin and the original incarnation of the Bad Batch. And so this is still part of that drop ship that flew out and made it. And so thanks to George Lucas for coming up with this.
Absolutely.
Really call comes back to George. He really wanted to do this show, and he loves the Bad Batch. It just came from him.
Who named them? Do you know?
Yeah. That was an interesting session. We were in the writer's room, and we had a couple of debates about what the name should be, and it sort of came out as a joke. And I think we sort of defaulted to, the Bad Batch. And it had a kind of Dirty Dozen thing going on, and so it just stuck.
What about like Hunter and Tech and Wrecker, those names? Did those kind of come along with that, or was that later?
Those guys were primarily George and Dave. And Brent Friedman was one of our writers on the project too, he's fantastic, but mostly George and Dave came up with that.
Yeah, this idea of enhanced clones has just been something that's been kicking around for a long time. And so it's a great point, T. It's something that George has been thinking about for many, many years. I know this came up in the video game space as well for us years ago, with Republic Commando and things like that. It's so great to see it up on the screen, you know, at Celebration, of course, but also, you know, on Disney Plus and earlier rooms. I mean, it's just so exciting. One of the things that you mentioned, Jennifer, you know, you mentioned Hera from Rebels. There are so many incredible guest stars almost. I don't know if you call them guest stars, but notorious figures in the Star Wars universe that showed up in season 1. Fennec Shand, I think about, of course. An amazing character, and by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, had an amazing little motif from Kevin Kiner, the composer. But how did that come about? And did Cad Bane kind of come out of Fennec Shand as well?
So all of season 1 is pretty much now that they're out of the military and they're having to be normal civilians, and now they have to provide for themselves, and they've never had to do that before, like in episode 4 where Fennec makes her appearance. They're out of money. Like, they need fuel, they need food, and, you know, so they try to sell an explosive, and Wrecker's not really happy about that. We wanted to have a bounty hunter obviously be after Omega, and Dave Filoni was talking about how he has this character that is going to be on The Mandalorian, and we were lucky enough to go and view that episode before it aired, just to understand who Fennec is and her mannerisms. But when we see her, she's new to the bounty hunting game. So she's still very capable and very threatening, but later on, when Cad Bane comes into the story, it was supposed to be more, she's the new guard, he's the old guard, and how they kind of, in a fantastic episode written by Maddie,
Thank you.
when they have a showdown.
You wrote that episode, congratulations, that was great.
Thanks.
Yeah. And spooky.
That episode in particular, like, you know, because again, this crew is so fantastic to work with, and you know, they made the action and just the visuals of that episode, with the mist everywhere and that planet. I think it was Borovia.
Yeah, Borovia. A fun planet.
There are so many times when I will view full colors, and I always say to Brad, I'm like, I don't know how this team does it. It just looks stunning, and every time I think it's going to be at like 100%, they just take it even further. So you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Can we just take a moment for Camino? Like that forgive the pun, that just wrecked me at the end there. I mean, that was incredible. It was incredible. Your reactions in the studio when you read those lines and the emotion you imbued, incredible. But how did that season finale come about? How did you conceive of that? How did you execute that? Because it was amazing. It looked so cinematic. Camino, how did that come about?
I think we knew early on in breaking of season 1 that it was going to end with the fall of Tacoka City, because you know that's kind of the final nail in the coffin for the production of clones. And you know, to write it is one thing, but to then hear it and see it is another, because the performances by Dee and Michelle in those 2 episodes were just so heartbreaking. And then, you know, there was a sequence in, I think it was 115, where you see quick shots of the empty rooms and then the empty embryo area. And it's so heartbreaking because you know it's about to happen. But it just felt like, you know, it's the end of Camino, and now where does the clone story go from there?
Where is the clone story going from there? I'm sure everyone who traveled all this way made all this effort, stood in line. I saw many of you at 8 in the morning this morning out here. Got a ticket, came in. I'm sure they would love to hear or see or talk about anything about what is next for the Bad Batch.
Yeah, what's gonna happen? I wanna know too.
Wrecker wants to know. Wrecker's back, for sure. Always here. What can you tell us about season 2? Season 2? You want to hear about season 2?
Well, we have a lot.
You want to be surprised.
I think that's it. I think we should need to watch something.
What?
Yeah.
You brought a clip, I take it? You brought a scene? What did you bring?
We,
What do you have for us?
we brought something from early on in the first episode. You want to talk about it, Jen?
Right. Well, it's just a little bit of time has passed, and the team has a new look, so we wanted to just give you guys
Out of my pajamas.
You guys want to see it? Here's the scene from Bad Batch Season 2. Now, before we start, phones down. 2. Amazing.
Oh, maybe you're going too fast. You got to slow down. You're going too fast.
I've been practicing.
How stunning was that?
Amazing. What do you guys think? The first time I saw that sequence, I gasped and I smiled through the whole thing because it was so great to see Omega's character arc starting to grow and become so powerful, and to see the new costumes and the color palette and the adventures of these guys. Just look at that! Brad, you want to talk to us a little bit about the visuals of season 2 and look at their new outfits there?
Yeah, you can. The design is so great. We worked really closely with Dave to make sure that we were getting the look right. And with Andre Kirk, our art director, we iterated on these characters. Andre, love ya. We iterated on these characters to get that kit bashed, kind of worn through feeling, which really mirrors where they're at this point, very early on in season 2. It was really fun to see Omega a little older. She's still pure of heart. That bow action, Michelle, is so incredible. She got a little. We needed to give her a little helmet. Come on, guys.
Needed a little more protection. Felt like the Camino pajamas was like, just a little reckless to be running around like that. So thank you.
Right on.
Now, Michelle, was that the first time you had seen that clip just now?
Yeah, I have. Like honestly, we do our paper run and then we send it off to all the different teams. So yeah, this is the first time I've seen this image. It's the first time I've seen that trailer. I'm like, whoa.
D, same for you?
Yeah, we read our lines and then wait around a couple of years and then we get to see it on stage with you. That's about it.
But you can see our team is just on fire. The water, the lighting, the animation, the design, the assets. It's incredible. Our supervisors, Andre, Paul, Keith, Joel, incredible. Our story team. We're just working to make it a good movie. We love it so much.
It's so outstanding, and I just gotta say, I really love the choice to center the story around a child and to find not just the soldier's way, but how to raise a child to find her superpowers, to find her strength and her traction as this world shifts from the Republic into this fascistic state. There's some parallels to the real world in this for me, and I think there's there's just a real resonance with that, with placing that story and finding your optimism, your reason to get up and to make the world better around a kid, around a child. I think that's a very Star Wars concept.
And I love too, the design, sort of the poetry of the design, that they're wearing their evolution as armor. And something that you said to me, Brad, when we were in a meeting about it was, that you took it much further than this at some point to kind of just experiment, because, how do you find this middle ground? How did you arrive at this? Because they're not really clone troopers, but that's all they ever knew before. And now they're in this middle ground of an identity crisis, but more and more becoming something new. how did you land at this? Like, what were those meetings like in terms of how much of the clone trooper do you keep versus how much color do you add? How much, how much do you change them versus keep them, as iconic as they are?
Yeah, absolutely. And, going back to what we were talking about, the Imperial clone troopers that are, devoid of color, where you see more of that, and you see more potentially stormtroopers, like our conscription troopers we saw in season 1, versus these guys that are intentionally more colorful. There's a shift going on there on purpose. And we, like I said, we just iterated a lot. We went really, really far, and then we came back. We took Dave's counsel very much to heart all the way along the way, and then we ended up on this really nice sweet spot that looks really cool.
Are there any other images that you're able to show us from season 2 today? Or did you have anything else that we can potentially take a look at here? Maybe,
Should we show them? Oh, yeah?
What are you talking about?
Are you gonna show them? Here we go.
This goes back to what we were talking about, some of the inspiration for the Bad Batch, way back in those early meetings you guys had. So myself and the supervisors on the team, we wanted to pay homage to that for this beginning of season 2, where all of these characters are at. It's a long road ahead, the Bad Batch. And this is a poster that, what are we doing with the poster? How are we gonna deal with it?
oh yes, everyone here, do you want one of these? So, they're not to be collected on the way out. I think you're going to get it at a redemption center that's further in the convention center, but you will be given a ticket or something to go collect them at a later date. You'll get instructions on that, but they are here, I believe. Yeah, you just get them at the collection center, just like in the other panels. So you'll get that on the way out. Everyone in here gets a copy of this poster, which is really cool. I mean, I have to ask. I know I'm coming across as greedy. Is there anything else about season 2 of The Bad Batch that you could share with this Star Wars Celebration home team crowd?
Posters are cool, but I want more.
And Wrecker wants more. Does Tech want more? Tech might want more.
Actually, I'm fine. Rebecca does want more.
Well, is there anyone else in there that can help us out? Echo, maybe?
I'm good too. Actually, I could use a little more.
All right, you're good. That's good. Did we bring anything else?
Well, even though season 1 ended with Tapoka City being destroyed and the end of one chapter, I think we'd like to show you guys what the next chapter is going to be.
So you have a trailer, is what you're saying.
Yeah, let's show a trailer.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's roll a trailer. You want to see it again?
To Dave Filoni, our buddy, who believed in us. We thank you so much, Dave. It wouldn't be possible without him, so thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks to all of you.
Supervising Director, Brad Rao. Head writer, Jennifer Corbett. Story editor, Matt Michnovetz. And the Bad Batch, Steve Bradley Baker and Michelle On. Bad Batch Season 2 coming this fall on Disney Plus. Bad Batch Season 2. Thank you, Star Wars Celebration. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Love you guys.